Welcome to Linear Speed Development, building a program with speed as a priority. My name is Steve Cvetanovich. I'm the running backs coach at Canal Winchester High School, where I'm also the assistant track coach, the head sprint coach for the boys. So today I'm going to talk with you guys about linear speed development, how we do it, the ways that we have implemented specific speed philosophies that I have into our off-season football program, how it has worked for us, and then the way that I would set up developing speed in a program if I were to move and go somewhere else and try to set it up again. So first and foremost, why would you want to build a program with speed as a priority? And so I ask you a couple of questions. What do all your top NFL receivers have in common? What do all your offensive linemen drafted early in the NFL draft have in common? What is one of the main things that colleges look for in a high-level recruit? And why do coaches want their athletes and their recruits to run track in high school? And it's because speed is king. Speed rules. Okay? And so as you move into this, this is just a little bit of information about me. Again, Steve Cvetanovich. I'm the backfield coach, the sprint coach for the track team at Canal Winchester High School. I've been coaching football for 6 years, track for 7 years. I started off as just a general assistant sprint coach, long jump, and the assistant sprint position. I took over the sprint program in 2017. Here's just a couple of things as far as 2017 to now in our track program. We've won 2 league titles, 1 district championship. We got 3rd in the state in 2017. We've had multiple state placers, and excited and hopeful for 2020 with the current times. We're not sure that we're going to get the opportunity to run, but if we do, we have a really strong contingent of sprinters, young sprinters. We're excited and we're hopeful for 2020, hopeful because of the interesting times that there is now. And we're looking forward to hopefully getting the opportunity to run because we have a strong contingent of young, talented sprinters that are hopefully going to make a splash this year heading towards the state meet. Some people that have influenced my setup, my sprint philosophy have been Tony Holler, Brad Dixon, Chris Corfus, Graham Eaton, Darian Barr, Joel Smith, and Rob Mixer. A lot of these guys are track guys. A lot of them have some ties to football. And so I will talk with you generally about my speed philosophy, but then I will also specifically talk with you about how I implement that within the football program. So just a little bit of an idea of what our sprint program has looked like in the past. Sub 12 second 100 meter dash guys, sub 200 or 24 second 200 meter dash guys. And you'll notice since 2017, we've been on a steady increase for both of those. We also last year broke the 4x1, 4x2, 4x8, and our 400, 800 records, all with sprinters. At least part of our 4x8 was sprinters, but then our 800 record was with a young man who's very talented, who had is going to have the opportunity to run in college, but he, without running over 220 meters ever in practice, broke our 800 record as well. So does making speed a priority work? So when Josh Stratton took over as the head coach in 2017, we only had 10 players running under a 5 second 40-yard dash. And so after his second season, which was after the 2018 season, he asked me to take over our speed development program. And in the off season, what we've done is we've meshed both our track and our football programs. Our track sprinters and our distance kids and our throwers all work out with the football team. We work out 4 days a week. And we have 2 different sections because of the amount of athletes we have. We have people working in racks and people working on a turf segment that we have in our weight room. And so they have the strength and all of those components with Coach Stratton and Coach Coe. And then I work on the turf with some other coaches helping me out, but I do all the programming for those athletes. And since that point, we have had a steady increase of athletes who are running faster and faster and faster. And so 32 athletes ran a 5 flat or under in 2019 for the entire season. And then this year, measured all the way up through March 3rd, we had 49 athletes run a 5-second or faster. Now, keep in mind this is hand time, but each of these athletes run it 3 different times. We take those, we average those to get a true sense of what our team speed really is. So the next thing I want to talk about is going to be my overall speed philosophy. In my opinion, to develop speed, you do it by running as fast as you can. And I think that's an important thing that a lot of times people don't do. When you're trying to maximize the amount of force that an athlete is able to apply, which is essentially what sprinting is an upward force, you want to practice at that maximum force as frequently as you can while still remaining as healthy as you can and staying as fresh as you can. So it's important then after each rep to allow full recovery, because after one rep, if you then put them right back on the line and you run another rep with the intention of running at full max velocity, that never happens. The first one will be a really good rep, and then after that, each time their velocity will actually decrease. And so even though the intention is to make them faster by running fast, you're practicing at a sub-max velocity. And so in my opinion, you're not actually going to help get them any faster. Instead, you're just going to tire them out. You want to limit the reps. When we do a speed day, really we keep the reps between 3 and 4 reps per athlete for a sprint day. And I'll talk a little bit more specifically about what a sprint day looks like here a little bit later. But you want to keep them low because you want your athletes to be fresh, happy, and healthy, and you want every rep to matter. So Tony Holler is the founder of Feed the Cats. As I took over the sprint program, one of the primary programs and ideas that I really attached myself to was the Feed the Cats model, which was essentially what I just talked about: running as fast as you can, staying as healthy as you can, and staying fresh. And so it's a minimum effective dose mentality. And so that fuels a lot of what the off-season program that we do for the football program is, as well as ultimately a lot of what we do with our track program. Brad Dixon is a Feed the Cats guy. He coaches both track and football, and he implements the Feed the Cats ideas specifically to a football team. So if you're ever interested in what that looks like, he's a guy that's worth looking up. He has a lot of really good content out there talking about how micro dosing or minimal effective dose works within an effective football team. Another thing that I think is extremely important is that you never let today's workout ruin tomorrow. Never let today ruin tomorrow. Never let today's workout ruin tomorrow. And that goes back to limiting your reps, allowing full recovery, and not sprinting as hard and as fast as you can every single day, because your body never will recover. And again, then you're going to practice at a sub-max velocity, which ultimately isn't going to help you get any faster. And then the thing that I think adds the most authenticity as well as the most excitement to the sprint program is the idea of recording, ranking, and publishing the athletes. And so each time we run anything or do any kind of a skill that we can measure, we measure it, we put it in a spreadsheet, and then we rank it from, if you're looking at a 40-yard dash, fastest to slowest, and then we take that and we put it on a Twitter page and celebrate all these athletes and all their hard work. One thing I wanted to mention is the idea of reflexive performance reset, or RPR. This, to me, has been a game changer for our program, both football and track, ultimately. But reflexive performance reset essentially is a neurological reset that helps your body shift from being sympathetic or fight or flight to parasympathetic, which is like a state of relaxation in a matter of seconds. And ultimately, when you think about this, having your body in a state of fight or flight at all times, essentially, for these athletes who are constantly thinking about their phones, thinking about what's going on at home, what's going on with their girlfriends, what they might be doing next, as well as then trying to come out and focus on working out and giving everything to what they're really tasked to do at that moment. Their bodies are constantly not sure what's going to happen next. And so it sits in the parasympathetic state for much longer than your body really is meant to. And so by bringing in RPR, we have the ability to take that body, put it in a parasympathetic state, which will ultimately relax the muscles. It will help the athletes' explosive ability. It will make them explosive and not implosive. It'll make their bodies fire in the right pattern. And then this all will help their processing speed and their rate of fire. And all those things, I think they're fairly clear as to why they're important. But definitely it has benefited us. Through the first year of full implementation, we had a decrease in soft tissue injuries by 45%, which is huge when you think about just being able to get rid of some of those dings, the pulls, the strains from overwork, overuse. That is a way to keep your athletes happy, healthy, and fresh, which is ultimately our goal. Now, down here at the bottom, there's their website. It's worth looking at. Really cool stuff. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to break down how we go about developing speed. And so I've talked about generally my philosophy. And so now I'm going to start to talk to you about how we do it. And one thing that I think is important to remember is that developing speed is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Instead, it is all about the kids you have, the coaches you have, the staff you have, and your knowledge, and putting all those things in place to maximize your athlete's development. So this is how we do it. And if you ever have any questions at the very end of this, I have all of my information so that you can see what we do, or you can ask me any specific questions that you might have. So to develop speed in our off season, our program is focused on teaching all the athletes how to move, which is vital. With all of the time that athletes these days spend sitting on the couch, playing video games, and not out playing, general body motor skills just are not as good as they used to be. And so a lot of what we do really helps these athletes just learn how to move. And so we learn how to move by developing rhythm. We do plyometric work. We do speed drills, which I'll talk you guys through here momentarily. We already talked about the maximum velocity sprinting. And I'll talk specifically about what we use for our max velocity days here momentarily. And then we limit the number of movements in the weight room and in our speed development so that our athletes can master those movements. It's kind of like in the classroom. You want to make sure that those athletes learn the skills that you want them to learn. And you do it not by giving them all the information in the world. Instead, we focus exactly on what we want them to learn. And so we do the same thing with our body movements. And everything we do is done with intensity and intentionality, making sure that these athletes are really, really attacking each rep, each movement, each moment with as much aggression as they possibly can, because ultimately being aggressive is being fast. So when we look at maximum velocity work, 40s are the king in football. And if you think about it, ultimately, it's because everybody knows how fast their favorite football player ran their 40-yard dash. Everybody knows that, Chris Johnson ran a 4.2, and then John Ross took over a couple of years ago as the fastest man by running another 4.2. And athletes love to be able to compare themselves to those pros. When we run 40s, we run on the turf. We let them put their cleats on. We run with the wind at our back, typically, because we want them to train as fast as they possibly can. And if you're running into a headwind, ultimately, those athletes are running slower than they possibly can, which is going to lead to them not PRing and ultimately, we love to see people PR because that's how they celebrate it. We celebrate it through publishing that on the internet and on Twitter, and they retweet it and like it. It really helps them realize what they're doing is making a difference. And so we want to make sure that that's happening. But also, you want them to be running faster than they ever have before, because then their body is adapting and changing to allow that to happen again. We use hand time because that's what we have. If you can use automatic timing system, that's great. But for us, it works to hand time because we can have 4 lines going at once and get the athletes through 3 reps each and move on to the next thing. When we record, when we time, it makes the athletes give max effort every single rep. And they do that because of the fact that, well, first off, they want to get faster. Second, they want to improve their time, whether it's their personal PR, whether it's a number that they have in their mind, whether they're trying to improve the last rep to a little bit faster, even if it was already a PR. There's always something to compete with yourself against. It also forces the athletes to take the proper rest time, which is a part of what we also make sure they do, is that adequate recovery time. And so by allowing these athletes to time each of these reps, they know when their body's ready to run again. And so if they're getting up to the line one after another, their time is going to drastically decrease. Instead, it teaches them how to learn what their body is saying and allow enough time to pass for their body to be ready to fire at maximum capacity again. We also like to run flying 30-yard sprints. And we do that, and I'll talk about why here in just a minute. We do that with a 15-yard run-in, and that 15-yard run-in, again, with the wind at the back, and then we time from the start of the 30-yard fly to the end of the 30-yard fly. And it's important for this to not try to gear up at the start of that. You want to be as fast as you possibly can at the very start. So you want to accelerate as if you were running a 40, but really you just end up running a 45 time. So why the 40? First off, we already talked about the fact that everybody knows who runs a fast 40 and everyone wants to run a fast 40. Well, the reason from a sprint setup perspective is because it includes both acceleration and max velocity. And by including both things, you're really forcing the athlete to do the 2 things that you want to ultimately train. As football coaches, we don't only want them to be fast in a linear direction. We want them to be able to pick up speed from a stopped or a different direction as fast as possible. And that's where the acceleration development comes in. The flying 30, why would we use it? Well, also, you want them to be as fast as they possibly can. And so to figure out how fast athletes are, you want to figure out how fast they can cover ground. And so a flying 30 allows that athlete to eliminate the acceleration component. Maybe that's not their best component, but they're really fast at their top end. Well, this will give you an idea. All right, hey, I need to work on acceleration with this athlete. Really, he has some wheels, he can fly, but he has a tough time getting started. Could be a weight room thing, could be an acceleration mechanic thing. So that will give you a key on whether that athlete needs some help in the acceleration component or not. And then a flying 10-yard sprint. These are my favorite for determining how fast someone truly is. But a lot of times people don't have the materials to do it. If you have a photo gate system or if you have like a free lap timing system, this is great to do those. You can put it at the end of the 40 and time the 40 and use the automatic timer to get the flying 10 at the end. But that really will tell you how fast your athlete is, how fast they can cover a 10 yards or even a 10-meter span in how much time. We take that and we report it as miles per hour, and we have miles per hour clubs, 20, 21, 22, and just report out who ran how fast. Just, again, giving them more things to reach for, strive for, and push themselves to be faster every single time they step foot on the turf. Publishing. So when we run a max velocity day, we take all that information and we put it into a spreadsheet. We rank it based off of who was the fastest to who was the slowest. we then take that information and I put it onto my Twitter page, CW Sprinters, and then post it onto the internet. A lot of times I'll tag the fastest kid. I'll take videos while they're sprinting. Maybe it'll be a kid that had the biggest PR. Maybe it'll be a newcomer who's never worked out with us in the winter before, either for track or for football. And I'll take a video of them sprinting and I'll post, hey, fastest newcomer, so-and-so. And then we'll put that on the internet with then the rankings in a Google Doc underneath it. And those athletes will retweet it, like it, comment on it, share it with their friends. And it gets lots of hits and lots of love because the athletes love being fast. Fast kids love nothing more than people knowing that they're fast. And this is a great way to really promote that brand. We are focused on making fast kids faster and taking kids who aren't that fast and making them faster as well. And that's where the biggest PR comes in. Kids will drop 2, 3, 4 tenths of a second, but still be middle of the pack. Well, you want to celebrate that too, so that they continue to realize that you're seeing everyone and you're seeing everyone's complete growth, and just different ways that you present that information allow you to do that. Speed drills. So the first part of our speed development is max velocity sprinting. The next part of our speed development is going to be speed drills, which is essentially sprint mechanics. Now, sprint mechanics are a lot easier to teach when you have 5 to 6 kids at a time, and you're really focused on hounding each individual with each individual cue that you kind of develop as a coach over time. But we typically have between 90 and 100 athletes in the gym at a time. And so we have 4 to 5 coaches who are helping on the turf, and we have 4 to 5 coaches who are helping in the racks. And so each person on the turf, I kind of talk to them about what key things we're looking for in each drill. And then through time, we kind of build a similar language over the last couple of years so that we're cueing everything similarly. And so that, again, this is not a one size fits all piece. This is all about who you have and how many coaches you have. And I got some videos here that I'll show so you can see what our weight room actually looks like when we're going through and we're coaching each of these individual speed drills. The goal is that we're teaching proper sprint mechanics, that we're teaching the body how to move. I talked a lot about that before, teaching athletes how to move, what kind of rhythm that they need. And sprinting is all about rhythm, making sure that your body is completely balanced. And these drills are helping your body to kind of get into that balanced form. And then again, at the top there, I talked to you about the speed drills are broken into complexes, and I'm going to break down the complexes and I'm going to go over each of the drills briefly with you here soon. And then we go into a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 order. What I mean is within complex A or complex 1, we do the first drill, then the second drill, then the third drill in a row. And then we start back over at the first drill and then go to the second drill and go to the third drill. And then we do it a third time. So every time we go 3 times through, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is the video that shows you what it looks like for us when we're running our speed drills. This is when we're working our acceleration mechanics. You'll notice we have lots of kids lined up, 3 lines in this case, and lots of athletes going one after another after another. We got a coach blowing the whistle at the front. I'm standing here filming this time, but off to my right, there's another coach standing directly behind me, and there's one across the way. And so we're all working together to work on a specific setup and a specific form that we're all looking to go at together. And so again, here we're looking at specific things, but this is what it looks like for us with these athletes. Okay, here's one more look. I don't actually have these listed anywhere, but I really like these and working on pressing and bringing that heel through nice and low acceleration mechanic. Again, I'll show it to you one more time, but we just call them kneeling sprints. It forces them to pull that ankle through, which is really good in terms of being fast off the ball, fast out the blocks. So the first complex that we do is complex A. We do an A march, which is an acceleration mechanic, an A walkover, which is a top speed mechanic, and then an A run, which is an acceleration mechanic. So this is an A march. Okay, so you're looking at good knee, good toe, flat foot, bringing that foot flat up, putting it flat back down, and you're not really bringing that ankle through it all when you're watching it. This second one here is going to be your A walkover. This looks a little bit more like riding a bike. The heel comes up to the butt, brings it all the way through. It extends a little bit in front of him, and then he places it back underneath his body. And so that is essentially how your foot cycles as you look at top speed mechanics. Okay, heel up through, and then you're going to place it again underneath your body. You'll also notice every time he does it, he's striking on the ball of his foot. He's not hitting heel first, and he's not up on his tiptoes. Okay, next one here. It's going to be our A runs. Okay, and so A runs are an acceleration mechanic. It's foot up, foot back down, foot up, foot back down. A lot of people call them high knees. I call it an A run because we're looking at acceleration and we're trying to mimic the march that we did 2 times ago and getting that foot to come up and then strike down underneath the body. Okay, our second complex, call it complex B. A skip right, A skip left. So our A march is essentially working on an acceleration mechanic. This is adding rhythm to that particular mechanic. And so the foot is coming up and it's going straight down. Again, you're hitting on the ball of your foot. Okay, good arms working with that. You want the knee and the toe to essentially be in a line as that foot comes back down. So you'll see here the knee and the toe are in a line, and that comes up and it comes straight back down. Okay. The next, we're building rhythm. We're working on a particular component of this, and we're helping the body to move in a proper way. This is A skips, but only with our right foot. Okay, so you'll notice, again, good position for the body, the knee, the toe, both coming up. The foot is flat, and then he's placing it straight back down. You'll also notice the rhythm and the bounce that he has within the body. He's bringing that other foot along with him. The arms are going opposite as they would if he was sprinting. The left is the same thing. I'll show you it real quick, but the goal is the same. It's up and it's down, striking underneath his body on the ball of his foot. Okay, complex C. Now we're getting into some top speed stuff, specifically focusing on a lot of striking on the ball of the foot. Okay, B skip is going to be allowing that foot to leak out a little bit in front of him, and then it's going to snap underneath, and he's going to strike on the ball of his foot. Boom, right there. Okay, you'll notice the snap is happening under his body, and then the strike is happening on the ball of the foot. He's not hitting on the heel. He's not kicking his leg out in front of him. That is a very good mimic of what your top speed sprint mechanic looks like. Okay, continuing on that, working on the strike position, we're going to do our straight leg shuffles, we call them. And you'll notice, sorry, I just moved forward. And you'll notice here we have strikes happening, but he has a good body position where he's standing upright. The arms are still bent. The chest is still flat as if he was running at full speed. He's not toy soldiering like I like to call it, where they lean back and they have straight arms. So you want to focus on the ball strike here and the straight leg striking underneath the body. Okay, and our next one are cycles. We call them cycles because it looks like you're riding your bike, but a cycle is it's a top speed sprint mechanic, but it's done at a much slower rate to allow you to coach up the mechanics a little bit. And so in this particular one, what you're going to see is he's going to bring those feet up through. Those legs are going to leak out a little bit in front of him. And he's going to strike underneath his body. Okay. Complex D is a series of accelerations. Now, I don't have them all here, but you have 4 people across. We call winners. We call it a competition period. So we have one coach blowing the whistle. I'm always calling for mechanic issues. And then we have somebody calling the winners. And we always want to compete because we want to maximize how fast these kids are attacking each of these. But a 2-point start is a standing. 3-point start is a one hand down. You want to make sure the opposite foot is up, of the hand that's up. If they're both on the same side, it's going to mess them up from the start. And then a 4-point start is both hands down. Okay, the next one that you're going to see here is a series that we call the rhythm complex. The rhythm complex, again, we do it 2 times a week when we're doing our speed drills, our speed development stuff. These help to develop your body rhythm. They help to develop proper quality ground strikes, and then create what we call ankle stiffness, not a mushy ankle, because you want that person to be able to control how much their ankle sags to transmit force as quick as possible. So we start off by going 2 foot, then we go right only, left only, lateral with the right, lateral with the left, and we go both directions. Then we do backwards, and then we do right, rights, left, lefts, which is just practicing rhythm and transition of force and essentially your body setup. Okay, so we'll start with the rhythm jumps, 2 foot. So you'll notice the strike is with the ball of the foot. We're bringing the arms back and forward, striking on the ball of the foot each time. And this is the boom, boom, boom. Again, 3 ground contacts. Specifically, you're looking at a good knee position, good toe position. I was talking before about how you want them to end up lined up. Here's the knee, here's the toe. You want those two to be essentially lined up, maybe just a smidge further out, about to here. But each time he strikes, you'll notice that foot comes up to about a 90-degree angle on the knee. And then the contacts are always directly below his body. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and then with this one, it'll automatically alternate both sides since there are 3 strikes instead of 2. Your plyometric stuff that we do, as a part of our max velocity days, we also do plyometric work. So we'll run max velocity, whatever we can do. And then after that, we're going to work on some plyos to work on that explosiveness off the ground. We try not to go over 30 to 50 ground contacts per kid. And really it depends on what those ground contacts are. Sometimes we even back off of that even more. But some of the things that we do are called assisted plyometrics. I'm going to show a video of those here momentarily. We max out on box jumps as well as do regular box jumps, but we love to max the box jumps because kids get hyped about jumping on tall things just like they get hyped about running as fast as they can. We do drop and pops. Those are where you drop off of one box and then jump up onto another. And remember, no kid should ever drop off of a box any higher than they can actually jump on. And I really don't drop them off of anything higher than about a 20-inch box. Hurdle hops. Hurdle hops, we use real hurdles. They jump over those hurdles. We do both isometric and continuous. So if it's continuous, we'll do 6 jumps in a row. If it's an ISO hold, you'll jump and then hold it at a 90-degree angle like you were getting ready to jump over or jump up onto a box at the bottom. Work on absorbing that force on the drop and then exploding back out of it. We also use some mini hurdles. So for guys who might struggle getting over top of a real hurdle, those mini hurdles are great. But the key has to be they need to jump as high as they can. And most of those guys will be surprised with how close they can get to actually getting over top of a hurdle. And then probably my favorite thing that we do is we do jump competitions. We always have winners and losers, just like we do when we do our accelerations. We'll do broad jumps. When we do just single broad jumps, we usually do it for distance and we record that and we'll publish it. But then we'll do, in competition, we'll do 3 times broad jumps in a row for distance, and we'll either let them load up each time or we'll call them continuous, where they have to hit the ground and explode off, which I like way better, working on transferring that energy and getting off the ground quick, which ultimately is helping what we're trying to improve. And then the triple jump for distance. So that's start on 2 feet, jump onto the right foot, left foot, and then land 2 feet again, or 2 feet, left, right, 2, and go for distance and see who can get as far as possible. And typically we'll do 1 each side, maybe 2 each side, again, helping to limit those ground contacts, because if not, athletes will really start to feel the effects on their shins and their knees from jumping too much. So these are our assisted plyometrics. And so the goal is you possibly can, but to back a rubber band. You want to spring. Now, this young man is going to jump at a Division I college for probably high, long, and triple. So he's got some natural spring, but the key is to pop off the ground as quick as possible. So you're maximizing the amount of force that you can possibly exert. And we're getting as high off the ground as you can, then by adding a little bit of supplement push so that your body has to absorb just a little bit more force than it naturally can. And that is going to be what creates that adaptation and helps your increased jump, as well as ultimately being able to jump faster. And then the other one that we do is the lateral. And so it's the same idea, but you're going side to side. And you don't really want to go so wide that you're not getting some really good height as well. Instead, you're focused on just kind of getting barely outside of each of the feet to allow your body to also be able to work in a lateral plane as well as in a linear plane. I unfortunately don't have any videos for these, but then we also do some bounding stuff, straight leg bounds. Those are like our straight leg shuffles. You're just doing them for distance. Bounds for height, that's a launch off the right, land back on the right, transition to the left, launch off the left combination. And so that's working on getting those bodies as high off the ground as they can and then transferring force to the other side and then doing it again. And then a speed bound. Speed bounds are something that you can look up on YouTube, but it's really focusing on bringing that ankle through, getting to a quality sprint position, and then striking the ground. Last thing I wanted to talk about is your wickets. Wickets are something that we run because I think it's something that's a benefit, but I also think that wickets can be something that could be detrimental if implemented in the wrong way. So make sure that you feel comfortable with the biomechanics section if you're going to end up using it, or do some quality research, reach out to some people who know what they're talking about. So you have specifics and keys that you're looking for with athletes, or else you're going to end up messing up the backside mechanics, and it's going to throw off their rhythm and their balance. So we have our athletes run wickets. We usually do 8 to 9 wickets. Wickets are a 6-inch mini hurdle that we place 5 to 6 feet apart, depending on the athlete, their speed, their stride length, their height. And we always have a 20-yard run-in because you always want to be running the wickets at max velocity because it's another max velocity event as well as a max velocity corrector. The purpose is to help develop a quality front side mechanic, which we've talked a little bit about, good knee, good toe, good foot, without overcompensating on the backside mechanic and causing that foot to extend too far or you to show too much for your foot to the sky, causing it to pull through at a weird angle and throw off that rhythm. Again, the drawback, if you don't have the coaching, if you don't have the cues, if you're not watching the right things, if you're not paying attention to your athletes, you could have them slowing down over the hurdles and really overstriding and reaching. That could cause some issues in their mechanics because they could feel like that overstride is really what you want to do. And when you overstride, what happens is you strike in front of your body, and so it acts almost as a braking instead of a either maintaining speed or an accelerating mechanic. All right, so to the football piece. So all that stuff that we talked about really is the program that we run with our football team in the off season. But how would I implement it specifically in the off season, in the summer, and then going into this season? So the off season is for development, and what I mean by that is run as fast as you can, as often as you can, as fresh as you can. Okay? Do your speed mechanics stuff, the complexes that we just looked at, and make sure that they are doing them right with intention and intensity. Limit your reps in the max velocity and time it, and then publish it. And then only sprint when your central nervous system is fully recovered, and I cannot stress this enough. We only sprint on Mondays and Thursdays, and we use Thursday because Wednesday is a rest day in the off season. And if you come out and you sprint when your body max squatted the day before, that's how injuries happen. That's how you run sub-max velocity. And so you're training yourself to be slower than you actually are, which is counterintuitive and exactly what you don't want to do. And only sprint with the intention of getting faster. We never run punishment sprints because all that does is train the athletes to be slow. The athletes try to pace themselves. They try to look like they're running as fast as they can, and they huff and they puff, and then it's the last one, and everybody all of a sudden can sprint this so much faster than they have been. And so when you're running sprints, quote unquote, all they're doing is either burning themselves out after one and then running really slow the rest of the time, or saving it all to the end and then all of a sudden being way faster than they'd been the entire time. And then everything we do gets posted to Twitter. names attached to it, efforts attached to it. The athletes come out to compete every time. Our skill guys, our bigs, everybody loves it. Everybody comes at and looks at it when we're done, and when we post it to Twitter. You post videos of people jumping on boxes, running as fast as they can. They can't get enough of it. How we implement it to football, this is preseason, which means summer for us. You want to continue developing linear speed, which means you have 2 days sprinting fresh and sprinting straight, typically 40s, 30s, lateral speed days, and change of direction, and adding in accelerating out of those breaks, accelerating out of a change in direction, and getting to top speed still, because that is becoming more and more sport specific, which is ultimately what you're doing. As the preseason rolls ahead, you no longer just need to train getting faster going downhill. Instead, you need to train getting faster within the context of that particular sport. And so we do some different drills, L drill, 3-cone drill, call a number, touch the middle, and go back and forth, and make sure that those athletes are getting as fast as they can. We do a serpentine chase drill where the athlete has to run through cones while the other person is behind them trying to tag them. All those things are going to be max effort while the athlete is changing direction. Then within the season, don't condition, in my opinion, which people think is going to be crazy. But last year we didn't run any sprints, didn't run any extra conditioning. All of that is built off of how intense your practice is and how intense every rep is. Our practices are short, but they're fast and they're intense. And because of that, our athletes are training within the context of what their energy systems need to do. And they are not running gassers that they're running at 75% of their capacity and saying, all right, it's the fourth quarter, when really they've been running like it was the hardest thing that they've ever done in their lives the entire time. And so everything that we're doing has a goal, a competition. It's within the reps. It's bursting 15 yards after a particular drill. It's working on being fast within the context of football. Practice with a maximum velocity on every rep that an athlete takes. If they're running routes, make sure that the athlete rests in between and then comes back and runs the best route that they possibly can. You cannot accept sub-max velocities, or else you're not getting those training systems that are put into place through practice to help the athlete get faster and be prepared for Friday nights. Limit the practice time. If you practice for 3 hours on the field the whole time, those athletes are going to be tired. They're going to be tired and slow. They're going to come back tomorrow, and they're going to be tired and slow. And any fool can get any other fool tired. And by just getting people tired, you're not going to win games. Tired and slow loses games. Fast and fresh wins. Doesn't matter what time of the season. And so as the season progresses, you need to make sure that you're listening to your athletes' bodies. If you have little dings here and there, you need to back off a little bit on that particular athlete. If they're having some soft tissue non-contact stuff, that's a key indicator that their central nervous system is fried from the amount that they're experiencing. At the bottom here, I have some specific sprint training that will allow the athletes to be fast, get into shape for the game, and do everything within the context of the sport. So kickoff team, timing how fast the entire kickoff team can get from the line to the ball. Route running, time how long it takes for them to run a post, how long it takes for them to run a vert. Time of pulling guard, how long does it take once they get through the hole 15 yards downfield, 5 yards downfield to the backer, and report those times. For a defensive lineman, how long does it take from the time they get off to the time that they sack the quarterback? Blitz from a backer, from their stance downhill to the quarterback, how long does it take? For a corner, for a safety, make them backpedal, flip the hips, and time them for 15 yards. How long does it take for them to run 15 yards after they make a football move? All of those things will help them get faster while maintaining the energy system training that they need to really help their bodies get set up. In the summer, the only kind of conditioning training that we do, I call them 6x30s. 6 seconds on, 30 seconds off. 30 seconds because that's approximately the time between plays. 6 seconds because on average your football play lasts 6 seconds. And so we run max velocity for 6 seconds, and then they take 30 seconds off, and then they run as hard as they can for 6 seconds again, and we do it in quarters. And that's the only kind of sprint training that we do as a conditioning, but it's specific energy training system that is training the energy systems that you'll see on the football field. How we implement my speed philosophy to football. Speed is developed intentionally. Speed is nurtured. Athletes cannot be run down. Do not be fearful to rest them. Like, we don't bring our athletes in on Saturdays. We don't bring our athletes in on Sundays. They get 2 full days off after the game to fully recover. Mondays aren't too intense. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are definitely our big days. And Thursday for us is a whole lot more backed off. It's shells only. It's walk through and then they go home. And so in doing this, we're keeping our athletes happy. They're healthy. They're fast. Mondays, we have them run fast because we're going through some different things where they have to come out and perform. But like I said before, you need to make sure that you read the athletes' bodies and see if you can notice the things that start to happen when the CNS starts to go. And then the other thing that I think is vital that we luckily have in our program is you want to develop a relationship with your track program. And you want to encourage your athletes to go out and compete, because as a football program, you want a whole bunch of competitors. And for people who play football, there's not a whole lot more nerve-wracking than being one of 8 out there on the track getting ready to run a 100-meter dash, or your lineman being the only guy out there getting ready to throw the shot put. Those things help to build the skill of being a competitor. It helps them to train their bodies and learn how to read their bodies and keep them under control, even in a high pressure situation. And those things are huge when it then comes to Friday nights and looking at under the lights, and there's nothing like it. So again, my name's Steve Cvetanovich. Here's my email, stevecvetanovich@gmail.com. And then my Twitter that I run is called CW Sprinters.